Aleph Chet.
I'm on Gimel Yud for you. Aleph, yeah, Aleph Chet is later Chazara. Let's go to Gimel Yud.
Okay. Gimel Yud. Okay. Well, there it is. Gimel Yud. Here we go. If one deposits money with another, and he tied it up and slung it behind him, or gave it over to his minor son or daughter and locked the door before them inadequately, he is liable, since he did not watch as a shomrim do, or if he but as he watches shomrim do not. I'm sorry, but if he watch as shomrim do, he is exempt. If one deposited money with a money changer and it is tied up, he may not use it. Therefore, if it is lost, he is not responsible for it. If it is untied, he may use it. Therefore, if it is lost, he is responsible for it. With a householder, however, whether it is tied or untied, he may not use it. Therefore, if it is lost, he is not responsible for it. A storekeeper is like a householder. These are the words of a mayor and Yehuda says a storekeeper is like a money changer.
Okay, just pause for a
If
second.
one uses a
Just
deposit,
hold on a second. Pause for a second. I just wanted to bring out an important point over here. Is that looking at the money changer, when if the guy says, "Here, look after my money for me," so obviously if it's sealed and whatever, it's clear that he doesn't want to use it. Then that's not. We're not talking about this case. We're talking about the case where it's open. Where he's given him a bag of open money, and the assumption is then that the money changer is allowed to use it. Okay. Now, what the question happens is, what happens if somebody comes in and robs the money keeper at gunpoint? So that's called an ones. What kind of shomer is he?
okay.
Right. So if he's here now a shomer sachar, even a shomer sachar is patur for ones. Right. So if he's just looking after this bag of money for somebody else, and a guy comes and robs him at gunpoint, and he says, "Okay, so I'm sorry, he stole my money, he stole your money. I'm not paying for your money." However, if the money changer actually uses the money, right? He took the money with permission. He dipped into it and took some stuff and used it for the changing. Then what's happened is he's now converted that the shmira into a milva. It's now a debt. He now has a loan from the left in the money. So now that he has a loan, it's not that he's responsible for it, even if it's an honest, because now he's effectively borrowed money. It's not the lender's problem if the borrower got robbed.
Yeah.
So that's one difference that is not explicitly stated out in the Mishnah. So the only reason why they say that he's patur if in the case of an honest is if he hasn't actually used it. But if he did actually use it, then he would be fine for onsen as well.
Okay. If one uses a deposit for his own purposes, Beis Shammai says he must suffer whether he loses value or he gains. Beis Hillel says as of the time that it is being taken out. Rabbi Akiva says as at the time of the claim. If one intends to take a deposit for his own use, Beis Shammai says he is liable. Beis Hillel says he is not liable until he uses it for his own purposes, as it is said. If he has not put forth his hand on the other goods, how? If he tilted the cask and took a quarter of a log from it and he broke it, he pays only for the quarter of a log. If he lifted it and took a quarter of a log from it and it broke, he must pay the tayavah because then he made a kinyan with it.
Exactly. So, when did he make a kinyan? Right. Even if he stated his intention that he was going to use it, so Beis Shammai says once he stated his opinion, he's stated his intention to steal it. He's already become a gazlan. But Beis Hillel say it only happens when he actually makes the kinyan. So now that actually segues nicely into the next period, which is when are kinyanim effective. Now Minat Torah, kesef makes a kinyan. So if I go to the shopkeeper, and I'm a farmer, and I say, listen, I need to buy a core of wheat, right? A large amount of wheat, and it's all in the storehouse. And he says, okay, here's the price, and I hand over the money. Minat Torah, that wheat is now mine. And if now suddenly lightning strikes the barn, and the whole thing burns down, I'm the one who takes the loss. However,
right.
Chazal didn't want it to be a situation where the guy who just sold the wheat sees a fire breaking out and says, okay, it's not my, so I don't really care. and he's not going to run. He's not going to try and save it. So they made it. So they made a takana that kesef is not koneh, that you have to do a kinyan of mishicha or kagba or whatever the appropriate kinyan is on the metaltalin in order to effect the transfer of property. Okay, so that's not just on wheat; it's also on different types of coins, as we'll see in the first Mishnah. And what we'll see is that the general rule that we have is whatever is the most liquid currency, whatever is the most accepted currency, that's considered kesef. That's considered the money of the day, and that one is not korneh. However, if you do a kinyan in the other direction, so for example, let's just take a simple situation where a guy goes into the market and he sees this is the lettuce I want, and he picks up the lettuce. That lettuce is now his. If he's got the house to be korneh. That lettuce is now his, and he's got a chiyuv to pay the money to the shopkeeper. Okay, this is according to the minhag in the time of the Mishnah. Of course, in our times, when you're walking in the supermarket, the stated condition is that you can put anything back onto the shelf. Just because you picked something up and put it into your trolley doesn't mean you're now have to buy it. That's again, that minhag Medina is always the one that trumps. So the minhag Medina is that if you put something into your trolley, you can put it back. If you broke it, then you chayav on it, unless you got a nice storekeeper who says don't worry about it. Okay, but if you broke something, you're chayav for it. But in the times of the Mishnah, at least, if you were in the marketplace and you picked up a lettuce with intention to be korneh, then all that you have to do now is pay the money, and there's no going back on it. You picked it up, it's yours. Okay, so now we see in Mishnah Aleph, Hazahav koneh es hakesef. So if somebody wants to make a change of money, he wants to exchange whatever 4 silver coins for a gold coin, and he picks up the gold coin, then immediately the silver coins belong to the other person. Okay,
I'm sorry. Immediately. Wait, I'm sorry. You said he immediately.
As soon as he picks up the gold, the silver automatically transfers property to the person that he's trading with. Okay.
But it says gold acquires silver doesn't acquire gold.
Silver. So if you pick up the gold, then the silver is automatically acquired to the other person. But it doesn't work the other way. But let's say the person who's got the gold and wants the silver, once he picks up the silver, the gold isn't yet acquired because the silver is considered the currency and the gold is the commodity. Okay. So commodity acquires currency, but currency doesn't acquire commodity. Okay, and similarly, hanachoshes in the other direction is something cheaper. The nachoshes, the copper also acquires the silver, but kesef eno konesa nachoshes, because silver is a much more liquid and acceptable currency than copper, or it was in the time of the Mishnah. Then we have the same dynamic, but just in the opposite direction. Is that the copper is now the commodity. So if you pick up the copper, then the silver automatically transfers. But if you pick up the silver, the copper doesn't automatically transfer. Bad money, in other words, worn away money. Their money wasn't like based necessarily on the stamp, or it was just it's an inferior grade to ours, which is much more resilient. Their money wore away.
That's what it means by unstamped. The translation is unstamped.
No, that's asimon. You're ahead of me. Maus araus, bad coins.
Okay.
That's a bad coin.
Disqualified coins. Okay.
Disqualified coins, yeah. Disqualified coins acquire the good coins. So it might be enough weight. Maybe you just want them for their material value because they're not carrying their face value anymore. Okay, so what's the commodity is the maus araus, and what's the currency is the good coins. But yapos enan konos is araus. The same principle again. Asimon is an unstamped coin. Excuse me. Okay.
Brute.
It's kone samat bear, and it's let's say you're just buying the unstamped coins because of the material value. Again, that's the commodity, and that acquires the coins in the other direction. But matbea ena kone asimon. In general, hametaltalin konin is matbea, v'amatbea ena konin is metaltalin. So that's your general rule: is that any kind of movable property that is being purchased, if you do a kinyan on the metaltalin, then the kesef automatically changes hands, but that does not work the other way. However, if you're doing a barter between different metaltalin, like you're swapping an ox for a donkey, or a lettuce for a spinach, as soon as one person acquires one, the other one automatically transfers property to the other. Okay. Ketzad. So the guy, so the buyer comes and picks up the lettuce, and he hasn't yet paid the money. And he now changes his mind and says, you know what, I don't actually want to buy lettuce. And the other guy says, I'm sorry, you've handled the lettuce. I don't want to have the bother of trying to sell it to anyone else. You can force him to hand over the money. Even if it comes to Beis Din, the Beis Din will say, sorry, you made a kinyan on the lettuce, you have to hand over the money. However, if it's the other way around, if the storekeeper has taken the money, but the purchaser hasn't yet picked up the lettuce, he actually has the right to, both of them, in fact, have the right to renege on the deal. Okay. Aval.
Okay.
Even though technically they have the right to renege on the deal, Amru mishe para me anshe dor hamabul umidor haplaga. Oh, my mazgan is not sounding happy. Just going to turn this off. Okay. They say that if it comes to Beis Din, the Beis Din can pronounce a curse on the person who wants to back out of the deal. That's appropriate to Parshas Noach. So whoever, the one who exacted.
Why is this in? Why is this in this Mishnah? It's like they were talking about one thing. I don't understand why this is in the Mishnah. This one. This part about it.
About he who exacted judgment from the people from the generation of the flood and from the generation of the dispersal. He will exact judgment on the person who doesn't follow through with his deals. That's why it's here. Because he has a situation where the guy handed over money, and then one of the guys decided that they wanted to back out of the deal. So technically they can get out of it, but they get a mishapara, which is not so nice. Okay. Rabbi Shimon Omer kol she'akesef yado elyona. So Rabbi Shimon dissents. He says that actually the only person who can withdraw from the deal is the one who's holding the money, because he can give back the money, but the guy who's handed over the money, if he wants to back out, and the other guy just wants to give him over the produce, he can just say, here's your produce, take it and go. So that's Rabbi Shimon's opinion, that only the person who has the money can actually technically back out of the deal. So the halacha does not follow Rabbi Shimon. Either party can back out of the deal at this point, at the price of a mishapara. Okay. Ha'ona arba kesef. Now, ona is overcharging. So we say that that if you find that that you have overpaid for an item, you're allowed to come back to the seller and say, revoke the sale. I don't want your object. Give me back my money, and here's your object. Okay. And how
that
much
doesn't work today? So
what's the shear of ona? Is four silver coins, me esim v'arba kesef l'sela, out of 24. In other words, 1/6.
Yeah.
Okay. So if the actual price is wait, hang on. If the actual price is 20, if the market price is 24 and the guy charged 28, so it's an extra fourth on top.
Right.
He's allowed to then the buyer is allowed to come back and say, I want to revoke the sale. It's just a mekach. In other words, a sixth, right? It states explicitly a sixth. Ad masai mutar lahachzir, but there's a limit, a time limit on this. And he can't come back next week and say, "Oh, I realize you overcharged me." He's got to check out his deal and make sure and come back within a reasonable amount of time. So how long is the time? Ad kadeshi yar letagar or lekrobo. So he's got to have the opportunity to go and show it to another dealer or to one of his relatives who can advise him, was this a good deal or not? Okay. So that's whatever that shear is, it's basically within the day.
Right.
Or it will less than a day. It's probably a few hours that he can just go and find this. Okay, but Rabbi Tarfon belud, but Rabbi Tarfon came and ruled differently from this other camp. He said, "Ha'ona shmone kesef lasela, shlish lemekach." He said it's a third. The overcharging has to be by a third. In other words, twice as much as the Tanakama said. The Samchut Tagare Lud, and the people in Lud said, "Yeah." So now they can really pump up their prices and not be worried that somebody's going to come and charge back. Amar lahem kol hayom mutar lahachzir. But he said, the other thing that I'm saying at the same time is that the buyer has got all day to check out the price and come back, rather than just a couple of hours, or however long it takes to go and check it out at another dealer. Amrulo. The dealer said, we'd rather have the 1/6 and a time limit and a fixed time limit in place, rather than giving us an extra amount that we can overcharge and giving them the whole day to come back and complain. So by common consent, they returned it to the words of the Chachamim that it's a 1/6 and only within the specified time limit.
So we have this concept in a lot of that. If you want to buy something and you go to a store and you're bothering the salesman, you're asking him questions, you go through this whole thing and say, all right, I'm going to think about it and whatever, then he goes to another store and his price is lower.
Mm-hmm.
So he buys it from this other store, but he's that's the right word. He's disrupted, this other man, the first man.
No, that's
because he put him through this.
If he's a serious buyer, he's allowed to go in and ask the price. What you've got is Geneva start. If somebody walks into a store and has no intention of buying and just bothers the salesman asking him about this price and this price and this price, and the salesman gets all excited because he thinks he's about to close a sale when really he's not going to. And that's called Geneva stars. I mean, you're deceiving the salesman and making him get all excited for nothing, and that's not allowed. But going in and asking the price, and if he tells you a price that you don't like and you want to go somewhere else to buy it, that's legit. That's 100% legit.
When I used to buy a car, I used to go in and say, they right away they come out, and I say, I'm just looking, I just want to walk around and look at everything. I didn't want to take it. I know they have a schedule. What I understand, they have a schedule. This guy goes and that guy goes, that guy, I didn't want to take away from the schedule, or I didn't want to disrupt this person, because take a sale away from him when I'm just looking. I have no idea if I want this model car or that model car,
Yeah.
So they always bother me. They like trying to jump on you,
Yeah.
Look. All right. Okay. All right. So we okay. So we still have to do. Leaves us alone. That's good. Okay, that's good. All right. So now we are going back to Zara.
No, we're still back with Metzia Aleph Ches.
Oh, we did. Right. Aleph Ches. Okay. So, if one finds evaluation documents, support documents, he should return them. Now, how many constitute a bundle of documents? 3, fashioned one to the other. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says if they are of one who borrows from 3, he must return them to the debtor. If of 3 who borrow from 1, he's to return them to the creditor. If one found a document among his documents and he does not know who gave it to him, he must remain until Eliyahu comes. There are receipts among them. He should do what is written in the receipts. Some fines belong to him and some he must announce. These fines belong to him. If he found scattered produce, scattered money, small sheaves in a public domain, round cakes of pressed figs, loaves of a baker's bread, strings of fish, pieces of meat, fleeces of wool brought from their country, bundles of flax or tongues of purple wool, these belong to him. These are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says anything containing something unusual must be announced. How? He found a round cake and a potsherd was inside it, or a loaf and money was inside it. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says all the utensils need not be announced. These must be announced. If he found produce in a vessel, or a vessel just as it is, money in a purse, or a purse just as it is, piles of produce, piles of money, 3 coins one upon the other, small sheaves in a private domain, loaves of homemade bread, fleeces of wool taken from the craftsman workshop, jugs of wine or jugs of oil, these must be announced. Okay. Daled Yud Aleph. If one says, I married a woman overseas, this is she and these are her children. He must bring proof concerning the woman, but he need not bring proof concerning the children. If he says she died and these are her children, he must bring proof concerning the woman and the children. A man may not be alone with 2 women, but one woman may be alone with 2 men. Reb Shimon says even one man may be alone with 2 women when his wife is with him. He may sleep with them in an inn because his wife watches him. A man may be alone with his mother or with his daughter, and he may sleep with them with bodily contact. If they grew up, she sleeps in her clothes and he sleeps in his clothes. If a bachelor may not accustom himself to be among the teachers, and a woman may not accustom herself to be among the teachers. Reb Eliezer says, also one whose wife is not living with him may not accustom herself to be among the teachers.
Okay.
And we have the Dharm.
Tesvav.
Okay, that's 5. They find ground to annul another by reason of festivals or Sabbaths. At first, they used to say these days are permitted from all, but all other days are forbidden. Until Rebbe Kiva came and taught in another which has been nullified is nullified in its entirety. How, in a case where someone said, Konam, what benefit I derive from any of you? If one of them is permitted, they are all permitted. For what I benefit from this one and from this one, if the first one is permitted, they are all permitted. If the last one is permitted, the last one is permitted, but all the others are forbidden. If one in between is permitted, from him and down are permitted, with him and up and are forbidden. When I benefit from this one is korban, and when from this one is korban, grounds to annul each netter are needed. If one says Kohanim wine with respect to my tasting, it because wine is bad for the bowels, and they said to him, but isn't old wine good for the bowels? He is permitted aged wine, and not only is permitted aged wine, but all wine. Kohanim on onions with respect to my tasting them, because onions are bad for the heart, and they said to him, but isn't village onion good for the heart? Excuse me. He's permitted the village onion, but not only is permitted the village onion, but also onions. It once happened that Reb Meir permitted him all onions. One more, yes?
No.
They find grounds into a
No. Now we're into Pesach.
Okay, that was it. Okay. Why am I coughing? Okay, Chet. Hey, Chet. Like its procedure on weekdays, so was its procedure on Shabbos, except that the Kohanim used to rinse the temple courtyard without the consent of the sages. Rabbi Yehuda says he would fill a cup with the mixed blood and throw it once upon the altar, but the Kohen did not agree with him. How did they displend and flay them? Iron hooks were fixed into the walls and into the pillars on which they were suspended and flayed the Pesach. Anyone for whom there was no room to suspend and flay his animals, there were thin, smooth staves there, in which he placed upon his shoulder and upon the shoulder of his fellow, so hung and flayed. Reb Eliezer says that the 14th fell on the Sabbath. He placed his hand on his fellow's shoulder, and the hand of his fellow rested upon his shoulder, and thus he suspended and flayed it. He tore it open, removed the sacrificial parts, put them in a plate, and burned them upon the altar. The first group went out and remained on the Temple Mount, the second group in the Chal, and the third group remained where they were. After dark, they went out and roasted their Pesach offering.
Okay.
Okay, and we have
Nida.
Okay, we have Yud Hey. If a woman died and a release of blood flowed from her, the blood conveys tuma as a blood stain, and it conveys tuma via a roof. Rabbi Yehuda says it does not convey tuma as a blood stain because it became dislodged after she died. But Rabbi Yehuda agrees in the case of a woman who was sitting on the birthing stool and died, and a rivers of blood flowed from her, that it conveys tuma as a blood stain. Rabbi Yossi said, therefore, it does not convey tuma via a roof. At first, they said a woman who was observing her days of Toha blood may pour water for the Pesach offering. They subsequently changed to say, with regard to Gedoshim, but they agreed that she may eat Maisa Sheni and that she may break off a portion of dough as challah and place it in proximity to the remainder of the dough and designate it as challah. And that if some of her saliva or her tahor blood fell on a loaf of truma, it is tahor. Beit Shammai said she requires immersion in a mikveh at the conclusion of her days of Tohar blood. But Beit Hillel said she does not require immersion at the conclusion of her days of Tohar blood. Okay.
Tomorrow we're going to start on Machshirin.
With Machshirin tomorrow, okay.
Yeah.
We have
also Bava Kama. We're restarting Bava Kama tomorrow.
Okay. My name is, well, let me mention tomorrow. I will not be able to have shit tomorrow. I'm going on a trip tomorrow. I'm on a Thiul. I'm going to Megiddo. Have you been to Megiddo?
I've driven past, but what's there?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly, but it was a nice trip from the. We're getting right. Yeah, it's a tour from the area R, I think it is, and it's a paid tour, and it's supposed to be going around the whole thing and
Enjoy.
It should be nice, So I'll see you on Tuesday. Then. Okay. These do not revert in Yovel. The share of a Bakor, one who inherits his wife, one who performs Yibum with his brother's wife, and a gift. These are the words of Reb Meir. But the comments say a gift is like a sale, and Reb Eliezer says they are all revert in Yovel. Reb Yochanan ben Broka says one who inherits his wife must return it to the members of the family, and he must deduct from the price they pay. The Maisa of animal applies within the land of Israel and outside the land, when the temple is in existence and when it is not in existence. And it is taken from ordinary animals, but not from consecrated ones. It applies in both cattle and flocks, but one may not be taken as Maisa from the other, and the sheep and goats, which may be taken as Maisa from each other. The to both new animals and old ones, and one may not be taken as Maisa for the other. It may have been argued that if new animals and old animals, which are not kilayim, with each other may not serve as Maisa for each other. Then is it not logical that sheep and goats, which are colliding with each other, may surely not be taken as Maisa for each other? The scripture states, and flocks, implying that all types of flocks are considered as one. The Maisa of animals is drawn from within the area that grazing animal. The Maisa of animals is drawn from within the area that a grazing animal is left to range. How far is a grazing animal left to range? 16 mil. If there were 32 mil between them and do not combine, if they had animals between them, they must be brought together and be tied in the middle. Reb Meir says the Jordan separates them as regard to the Maisa of animals.
Okay. That's it.
We're leaving at 8 o'clock from the Manash, so there won't be time to really do anything.
Okay, sure.